I should turn myself down a little bit.
Okay.
So we've got
Just a smidgen.
for some. For some reason, like when I have my volume set to 100%, it's absurdly loud.
That's
My input volume, and then I turn it down to like 98, and then it's normal again. So I don't know what's up with that.
It's like some sort of weird sweet spot thing.
well. I mean, decibels are in a logarithmic scale that like get bigger as like the individual tens get bigger the higher up you go.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird like that.
It do be weird.
It do.
It do be like that.
Sometimes.
Shooby dooby doo wah, shooby dooby doo wah.
I need to rewatch some Phineas and Ferb
Jumping.
at some point.
I've only like seen about 30% of the show, just from watching it at other places and in passing at my house when
I
other
suppose it's
people are
probably
watching
on Disney
TV
Plus
and I'm
now,
not
isn't
there.
it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, not Netflix anymore.
It's on Disney Plus.
Yeah. I enjoyed most of it except for some of the musical bits were a little annoying to me, but it's a kids show, so that's to be expected.
yeah. I feel like they like part of the bit was to stick to a formula, and part of the formula was a song in every episode. And when you have to crank
Some
out,
songs were bangers though.
right?
Like Simp.
Hold on. What?
Remember Squirrels in My Pants?
Oh.
They predicted simping years and years before it was a term.
Circa like what, 2012, 2011, something like that.
Something like
I
that.
remember
yeah.
all of the T-shirts in like Target and like Kohl's. All the Kohl's department stores. Yeah, because I thought that Agent P was a pigeon from just looking at it while we were shopping for things.
I see.
And then, because it used to say stuff like "bird is the word" or whatever next to it, and I was like, "What the heck is this green thing?"
I thought that was Family Guy.
Was there an episode?
Yes, that was Family Guy.
Oh, maybe it was the other part of like the printed T-shirt section. I was getting it confused with. But yeah, it was like, and then I eventually watched it. I was like, this show kind of slaps. This is good content.
It's a show that's self-aware about how formulaic children's shows are, and so it's so formulaic that it's its own joke.
Yeah,
And yet they lean into it so hard that it's
and that
good.
enables them to do different things with that formula because they acknowledge it's a formula.
They know they have to start and end in a place. It's just how they get there that gets weird.
I like the episode.
Absolute banger of a theme song.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
for sure. It's brought to you by Smashing Pumpkins, or no, not Smashing Pumpkins. Bowling for Soup. Apparently did that.
They're
Intro.
abusing a different kind of food.
Yeah, but that was funny when I found that out. I mean, if I knew who they were, I think my freshman year, Bowling for Soup was playing on campus, and I never actually went to any campus concerts because they usually didn't have anyone I'd be interested in. But yeah, it's Phineas and Ferb. It's when you speed up some Green Day songs, it does kind of sound like Phineas. And then Ferb probably, oh gosh, my younger brothers were watching this on TV, and then they would try to explain to me what it was, and they weren't the most articulate 7 and 8 year olds in the world. So Aaron would be like, "Hey, there's this crazy show called Ferbs." Like Ferbs, like Furbies. They made a show out of Furbies. No,
or like
Ferbs,
the
you know.
magazine about rich people.
Yeah, it's yeah, right. And I'd be like, "Oh, you mean Phineas and Ferb?" Yeah, Ferbs. No, Phineas and Ferb, dude. Like it says like on the title, but
But Phineas is hard to spell for a 12-year-old.
my little brothers were oddly insistent on like their version of what something was called versus what it actually was. UPS, even though it says UPS on the truck, they'd be like, "Hey, the PUS truck is here." They did this for a long time. It'd be like,
You both have dyslexia, don't you?
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I got my package from PUS. Like, stop saying that. It sounds like you're saying POS. Which
Point of sale? What's wrong with that?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are little things like that where they're. What was? Oh yeah, like they hurt their chother, like their chother instead of each other.
Their
Yeah. And it was.
What's up, Chother?
Yeah, they had this fascinating way of just like twisting things their own version. That if you knew that made sense, but I was just like, how on earth did you arrive at that? Like even the other day, I was talking to Aaron, and he was like, "Remember back when we were childs?" Like what?
Okay,
When we were
that's got to be ironic, right?
when
It was
when
sort
you
of a
were
slip of the
a
tongue.
90s TV chef.
Julia Childs. I never watched Julia Childs, but I did watch like an SNL skit or something where she cuts herself and slowly bleeds out. Basically, like a guy dressed up in a wig or whatever, and it's like first thing you do is you call 911. Oh wait, this phone's fake. It doesn't work. Yeah, it's just this long thing.
So I did actually see her at some points during my childhood. We had satellite TV that only got PBS and EWTN
Yep.
as good Catholic parents
We
do.
didn't even get PBS. We just had the EWTN.
So we would watch,
Nick Jr.
we would watch the PBS Kids stuff, but then like on Saturday over pancakes, there'd be like the EWTN kids shows that were mediocre to.
There was like
not
those
that
weird
great.
animated Flash cartoons they had that were dubbed English from Spanish, like
Hmm.
super low budget.
All of it was low budget. It's,
yeah.
it's Christian animation.
Do
They
you
didn't have very much of a
they
budget.
when I was little, they had a couple of shows on there where they're actually really good. Like for Christian entertainment, it's pretty bottom of the barrel in terms of production quality. But there was this one cartoon called The Story Keepers.
Story Keepers came to mind
Yeah.
immediately. Also,
Yeah, that
had
one was actually a good show.
it had a rockin' theme song.
Yeah, it was. I need to look that up because it was about Christians underground in the underground church in ancient Rome, and it was like really well written, good animation, good acting, voice acting, and stuff. So it was,
This is by Christian TV standards,
right,
so.
but even so,
But
like
even so, it was moderately.
mostly positive
decent
memories in my
quality.
brain.
Pardon me. There's VeggieTales.
Okay, VeggieTales is good.
That's not the stuff you get on EWTN.
No,
though. That's direct to video
VeggieTales
stuff.
was never good enough. for
VeggieTales
EWTN.
is like the top shelf Christian entertainment.
It was too good for EWTN. Children's programming. I hated the ones where it was just some gal who got, like, bless her heart, she's probably, I don't know, or some lady would just like sit down with these kids and tell them Bible stories, and it was like the most mind-numbing thing to watch because it's like there's no visuals or anything. They were just sitting on this film set telling these kids about something or other, and I was like, why am I watching this? I'm not really watching anything. This was like before audiobooks even. Like it was very dull to my little crazy 8-year-old brain. But I'm sure it was probably good stuff. But the problem was the rest of EWTN was like that, where it was just older adults talking about stuff that was way over my head, and it just bored me to death.
Which that was the other stuff Dad and Mom would watch like in the evening sometimes. Mother Angelica. And
Okay,
whatever.
Mother Angelica was good. She made sense. But I think Father Mitch Paco actually said Mass at Cathedral a couple times when I was young. And I was like, wait a minute, you're on TV. At my house, anyway. I mean, not a ton of other people's houses. But, yeah, EWTN, not great children's content. And the thing is, they still play the exact same stuff. And every once in a while, well, most of it is like dubbed from Spanish. And it's like
Because nobody in America likes Christian content.
the wildest
Or wants to make it
the
that
wildest
is.
content they had for kids was probably the Old Testament anime. That was wild. Like,
that was either before or after my time.
yeah, because I can't even remember what it was called, but it was definitely like, yeah, I think it was anime about the Old Testament, and
I'm gonna have to look this up.
I know.
This might have to be a future episode.
Yeah.
Well, I already read the manga, so.
Because like we didn't watch anime when I was little, so I didn't know what it was. But then like when we started watching some anime shows and stuff, like now that I look back on it, that was anime. Like a lot of it was like about Abraham and Isaac and stuff like that. Like it was
Sure.
okay, but the sound quality was a little weird. With like the sound effects sounded like it was like inside of a metal tube with like that sort of really like this sort of doingy sounding echo to it.
Mm.
And then the audio quality wasn't great on the voice acting either, but the music was kind of wild
That's kind
too.
of
It was-
just how '90s animated shows were.
True,
If they
yeah.
weren't like cream of the crop budget kind
the
of productions.
the episode on the Golden Calf was slightly traumatizing though, because they were just like Moses orders like the faithful to like slaughter the ones who were no longer faithful or something, and that sequence was like, what the.
Oh.
It was just like, man, they're really going to town on these unbelievers. Oof. But yeah, I don't remember the name of it, but yeah, that was weird.
That does sound like it was weird.
Every now and again, like my siblings and I will like sit and chat about like random stuff like that we used to watch. It's like, oh, I totally forgot that was a thing. I was like, okay, so that was real. You remember it too. But yeah, that's enough about my childhood.
Time for our weekly seminary checkup.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with you?
We're still all sad and lonely because of the COVID.
Aw.
We're not technically supposed to be visiting each other's rooms and whatnot, even if we do wear the mask,
Aw, that's unfortunate.
which is the big sad. But hopefully by this weekend, we have one guy with an active case still.
Mm.
So he's supposed to be out on Sunday. Hopefully we can get him out and get no one else sick in the process
Mm-hmm.
and be free once more.
I've
That
had
will be a good thing.
I
to
Want
have
to
happen.
Break Free by Queen stuck in my head all day, and that's like immediately popped into my head when you said get free. But hopefully, yeah, because Community obviously is one of the big bonuses of seminary life, I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
with the dudes.
It's like the thing that gets you through seminary.
Yeah.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, nothing really new on this end other than looking for potential new home for the 2/3 of the
For
podcast.
the lads,
Yeah.
for the
There was your-
boys,
There,
the fellas.
we had a bit of a fiasco with James's Xbox controller he tried to buy.
Oh yeah. Well, it's an off-brand.
It's an off-brand, so he wanted to save money, but you get what you pay for.
Yeah, the left
'cause-
bumper doesn't work.
And I was looking forward to, well, we actually did manage to get Jedi Fallen Order running with using that, which was
Mhm.
nice. Much later
You had
than
to
I.
remap one of the
Yeah.
controls though, and so there's just a function you can't do.
I haven't gotten to the point where I need to use that function yet.
Not yet.
So
But-
far, it's fun, but I do have some
It's mostly
gripes
for
trying
cosmetics.
to get into the mechanics of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's just things that are like, this doesn't sit well with me. I don't know why.
Double tapping dodge to roll.
Right, I very much am against that. It's like, give me a committed dive roll arc, or give me the short dodge I do all the time. Don't make me double tap. You wouldn't make me double tap to heavy attack, would you? That would be dumb. You would constantly miss input, and in the heat of a battle.
There are different button combos for.
Right, sure. Those are like combos. It's not like you tap a button to do one move and double tap it to do another.
Well,
You tap it twice in a row to hit, yes. But tapping and double tapping don't have completely separate functions.
after Nathan played it, I went back and did like the challenge mode that I unlocked when I beat the game, and there was one move I didn't realize was even a move.
Oh.
I just sort of like, wait, what was that?
And what movie is
apparently
it,
when
or
you
is this-
hold down attack, I'm not sure if this is like something I unlocked at some point and forgot about it, but when you hold down attack, it does like a series of attacks that caps off. So kind of like how the enemies, have their cycle of attacks. they'll
Oh,
do.
sure.
So that was like, oh, well, that would have been nice. Oh well. But
Well, we're not talking about Jedi Fallen
we are
Order
talking about
today.
Star Wars today. We are the Palladium Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Riley.
And today we're getting philosophical.
In a world where one man will decide whether to pull a lever and kill one man, or not pull a lever and allow 5 people to die, find out in Philosophical.
So yeah, we're this is our
Welcome
first
to Philosophical, where we get philosophical
about films. Yes. I mean, even though all the bumpers are great, that's my personal favorite bumper right
Ah.
there.
Definitely my favorite.
I love that one.
Shout out to John. You probably know who you are / recognize his voice at this point. So I mean, I hope he knows who he is at this point.
That would be unfortunate if he didn't.
So you may be thinking, wait a minute. I'm a faithful listener of this podcast. I know that they already talked about the Stars War. And you are correct, but we didn't necessarily talk about all of it because there's a lot more than the core 6. Okay, technically 9, but the 6 films people care about. There are the 2 Star Wars stories that we're talking about today. Solo, which came out, I believe, in 2018, and Rogue One,
2015, right?
which came out in 2016.
16. Okay.
So, these 2 films were sort of part of an effort that recently has been sort of replaced by TV
By
series.
the Disney Plus stuff.
Yeah, because they were going to, after making, well, this came out sort of in the middle of the sequel trilogy being released, like in the off years, because they did it every 2 years. But yeah, so there's Star Wars has an expanded universe right now. A lot of it was like comic books, novels, and things like that. People had written
The holiday special, the 2 Ewok movies.
all sorts of lore and games and different things that had sort of added onto the Star Wars universe. And when Disney bought Lucasfilm, they sort of reworked the canon a bit.
They didn't rework it. They axed everything that wasn't the main movie or the Clone Wars.
But yeah, but
which
well,
gave
they're
them
slowly working that stuff back into it though.
right. They're retelling some of the stories and reincorporating some of the good ideas, and then just dropping some of the stuff that was just like, why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's see. Where do we? To begin, we have Solo, which is, as you might guess, Han Solo's origin story.
It's Han Solo's solo film.
Mm-hmm. Which was, I mean, when you pay attention to the ending of the movie, it's like they clearly intended to do more, but they didn't do very well in IHOP. I mean, in movie theaters. So they,
The ratings were so low.
yeah, there you go. All right. So, start us off with Solo. So we have our main
Starts
character.
out on Corellia, the
Yes.
planet which builds ships.
Mm-hmm. Junk planet.
Yeah.
So you have Han Solo and his girlfriend, whose name is
Emilia Clarke.
Emilia Clarke. Heartthrob.
That's her name.
Yes, but
She has a
That is the name of the character.
yeah,
Emilia Clarke as herself.
Rizzo the Rat as himself. Kira, I think that's how it's spelt weird, not how I expected it. Okay, so Han and Kira are sort of kind of enslaved to this local crime boss, gang lord person on this junk planet, right? And so they are trying to collect money so they can get off the planet and start a new life for themselves among the stars, right? And so Han steals this. I'm trying to remember the name of this material. It's this very valuable, very volatile, precious,
It's the light speed juice.
the light speed juice that
It's-
everybody needs.
It's the hyperspace fuel that helps them jump to light speed.
Rhodanium, is that what it was called again? Anyway, so he steals he pilfers this thing which is worth a little thing which is worth a lot of money. And so they make a break for it and run away from the gangster mob boss Snake Water Lady and her minions, but these guys are sort of in league with the Empire on the planet a bit, it's implied, so they
Well, because they're shipbuilders, so they're making
Yeah.
all sorts of Star Destroyers and stuff.
and so the soldiers are looking for him, and they get separated at the airport. Kira gets caught, and Han makes it through. And in order to escape the law, however, he joins the Imperial Academy in the hopes of becoming a pilot. Sort of enlists for service to get, to eventually achieve his freedom. So years later, he sort of doesn't flunk out, but he sort of quits the Imperial Academy because he's too cool for school, kind of a thing, and ends up as just a grunt sort of troop, not stormtrooper, but like
'Cause
trooper.
apparently they're more elite than regular troopers.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't tell by how well they shoot, but
Right. He's a Imperial grunt on this muddy, murky rebel planet of some sort, fighting a very muddy battle against the Empire, and he's there
not against
helping.
the Empire, for the Empire.
Right, you're right. He's fighting for the Empire against this rebellion. And it's just chaos. He wants out of there. And by happenstance, he stumbles across this group of, not bounty hunters, but like kind of
Pirate,
a
smuggler,
gang,
marauders.
smuggler
sorta.
marauder gangs led by Woody Harrelson, whose character is
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson. Yeah. He's another one of those actors who just plays himself in every movie. I'm trying to remember his name though. Oh, Beckett. That's what he is. Beckett and his crew. And so he's like, "Hey, I'm a good pilot. You guys, they just lost their pilot or something by accident in the battle."
No, the pilot's still up there. He gets lost later.
Oh, you're right. You're right. He finds out, or these people are in disguise amongst the Imperials, trying to steal something. And he's like, "Hey, I know what you're doing. I want out of here. I want to join your crew." And they're like, "Hey, whatever. Hey, there's a deserter here," and so they quote unquote turn him into the other Imperials, and so they throw him into a cage and feed him to the beast. Lo and behold, the beast is Chewbacca.
So that's how they met.
So that's how they met. So that's how that happened. Is sort of this movie.
That's the
That's the whole point of the movie. So that's how Solo got the thing.
So that's what that means.
Yeah. It's like, I think at some point Kira gives Han like those dice or whatever he hangs on the rearview mirror of his Millennium Falcon or whatever.
No, he gives them to her at the beginning,
Oh,
beginning
you're
of
right.
the movie, and then she gives them back by the end.
Yep.
Spoilers.
So it's
but
like,
Kira
okay,
shows
so
up
that's
later.
how that happened. Sure. Okay.
Honestly, I didn't even notice the dice until like episode 8 when they put a focus on them.
Mm-hmm. I still don't understand the significance, honestly.
Me either.
But at any rate, so Chewbacca and Han are in this cage thing, and he's like, "Oh, I speak a little bit of Wookiee," and so he starts talking Chewie into not eating him. And he's like, "Hey, you help me out. I'll help you out of here. I've got a ship. We can escape." And he's sort of, he's a smooth talker, so he doesn't exactly have a ship. He's still hoping to convince these smugglers to let him join. So they escape the cage, and then as the crew is making a break for it, Beckett sort of has a change of heart and allows them to escape with them.
Not just a change of heart. He's got a Wookiee, and they're helpful. They're strong.
Yeah, they're good at
strong
ripping arms
boys.
off and that sort of thing. If you play Lego Star Wars or whatever, but
That's the thing they do in the movies too. or at
Yeah,
least
that's true.
They make reference to it.
So they're like, okay, we're gonna do this heist and steal all of this fuel stuff from a Imperial train. So they go to this planet, start the heist, and then this sort of tribal raider group interrupts things and sort of messes up the heist. And a couple of Beckett's crew members get killed, including his lover and their pilot. And so it's just left with Beckett, Han, and Chewie, and they are going to steal some of the stuff, but they're about to run into a mountain, so they have to jettison it to survive. And there's a big explosion and sad times. And so they're like, well, Beckett's like, well, okay, we're in trouble because I was doing this job to pay back my debt to this syndicate called the Crimson Dawn. So they go to the Crimson Dawn dudes.
They go
Dryden
talk to Vision.
Dryden Voss, on his home ship or whatever, and
Like
he's
space yacht.
crime boss dude, and he's like, all right, well, oh, by the way, Kira's here. What? Kira's here. And so she's like, hey, Han, what are you doing here? And then, and you know,
He's like, what are you doing here? She's like, I work here.
She's
And he's
being
like,
kind of
well,
cryptic
I do
about
too
it.
now.
Like she won't say exactly what happened to her after they got separated, but she's here now. So he's trying to make moves on her and win her back, but it's been a long time. And she's like, you don't understand what I'm in right now. So Dryden's like, okay, I'm really mad at you, but it's not me you have to be worried about. It's the people I answer to. So do this other heist and make the Kessel Run to get this material and get the money back, basically, so you can pay us back. And just to make sure you guys do it right and don't mess up this time, I'm sending Kira with you. They're like, okay, well, we need a ship, so let's go around and see if we can find a really fast ship because ours got wrecked. And so they go
Kira's
around.
like, I know a guy with a fast ship.
Mm-hmm. And they go find this gambling den where
Okay.
there's Lando Calrissian, and Han tries to gamble him for his ship and loses with a literal card up of Lando's sleeve. But they hire Lando and they go do this heist and steal the fuel and stuff, and then they jump into space on the Millennium Falcon and
Wait, there's the Millennium Falcon in this movie?
yes, the
Wow,
Millennium
there's the
Falcon.
Millennium Falcon in this
As
movie.
all of the astute fans,
Wow, Han Solo. There's the Millennium Falcon in this
Yeah.
movie.
No.
all of the astute fans will recognize that, oh, Han did win the ship in a gambling match from
But-
Lando.
But not at the beginning of the
Ah.
movie.
Right, not at the beginning of the movie, psych, but not really. It's like, okay, he's going to get the ship at some point. But at any rate, so they do the heist. Things don't go quite according to plan, but they're making escape. They're escaping. They're trying to escape this black hole and a big space jellyfish monster thing.
There was a couple steps you skipped in there when they grabbed the stuff and met
Oh, yeah.
Chewie's family and then left.
Oh,
after
that's
that.
right. To be honest, like I've only seen this movie twice and I fell asleep the second time.
But it's after they get the raw materials
Yeah, yep.
that they go through this nebula full of black holes, right?
Mhm.
And they're on a time limit because this stuff is unstable, so if it gets too hot, they're all gone for.
Mm-hmm.
But by some miracle and some last-minute calculations by a computer lady they plugged into the
Because
Falcon
she got blown up
died.
and she's apparently Lando's best friend or whatever, so they make her part of the ship. It's like, oh, okay.
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's how they get out of that scenario and get it
Mm-hmm.
to a refinery where they can distill it into the
Yeah, they stick-
proper fuel. Fuel?
This
Fuel.
is the proper
That's stable.
synagogue.
Stable fuel.
the proper
I don't
synagogue.
know why I said it like
Shul. They were Jewish, by the way. At any rate, so yeah, so they get the coaxium. I think they stick like a little bit of this really volatile raw fuel into the hyperdrive so they can get out of this black hole or whatever. And so they go to this planet where there's a refinery, and then the tribe people who interrupted the coaxium heist at the beginning of the movie show up and like, hey, Crimson Dawn is evil. Give it to us. We're good guys. We're trying to save people. We can use this to do good. And so Han is like, we should really help these people, Beckett. And he's like, nah, dude, I just want my money. You're soft. So they go to Dryden and pretend to give him the coaxium. No,
they give him actual.
they give him the actual coaxium, but they pretend he's like, he thinks it's fake.
because
and
he
Han-
was tipped off by Beckett. Oh, double cross.
Mm-hmm. And it turns out, nope, it was real. So they get in a fight. Beckett betrays Han, or tries to.
Everybody betrays everybody in this scene.
Yeah. They get into a fight. They kill Dryden. Beckett tries to run off with a coaxium. But
And Kira's like, I'll catch up with you later. Go downstairs while I talk to Darth Maul's in this movie. Bum, bum, bum. That doesn't go anywhere, but it's a thing.
It was meant to, but it didn't. And let's see. Yeah, and then they killed Han kills Dryden, or not Dryden.
Well,
Oh yeah, he kills Dryden.
Kira killed Dryden.
Yeah, and then Han kills Beckett,
Mm.
who's trying to double cross and shoot him again.
But Han shot first.
Mm-hmm. Han definitely shot first in this scenario, and he was holding Chewie hostage in this situation. So they give the coaxium to these rebel people so they can live to fight another day against the Empire or whatever. He's like, hey, you could really help us with the rebellion. He's like, nah, I'm more of a free spirit. Like sort of a foreshadowing of something we've already seen in episode 4 where the rebels are trying to get him to join whatever. And then he goes and tracks down Lando and wins the Falcon from him in a poker match, basically.
But this time it's all fair and square because he stole the secret card up his sleeve. So
Mm-hmm. So that's like, oh, so that's why he said he wanted from you fair and square. Oh, that's how that happened.
That's how that happened. The movie.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, they're like, hey, I heard about this crime boss on Tatooine who wants somebody to smuggle for him. Let's go get that job. Oh, and that's where episode 4 Han comes from. Oh, so
that's how it happened.
So that's Solo right there. We'll get into analysis after we finish with Rogue One, which has got substantially more substance.
Substantially more substance. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so.
So both of these
to say
films,
it.
I guess we
Mhm.
forgot to say, take place between episode 3 and episode 4 of the main saga.
They're prequels to the originals and sequels to the prequels.
Mm-hmm. Try to keep up.
That's Star Wars for you.
That's Star Wars. Oh, hey, look, it's Star Wars. Speaking of callbacks, right. So Rogue One.
A Star Wars.
You
story.
have what's her face?
Jyn Erso.
Jyn Erso, played by Felicity Jones, and all these other people, and Alan Tudyk is in there somewhere. So Galen Erso is this engineer helping to build the Death Star, and he's like, "Dang, this Death Star is going to kill a lot of people, and goes against my beliefs. I'm gonna hide a weakness in the Death Star and run off with my family to this planet to hide from the Empire." And he and his wife and Jyn, his little girl, are living on this planet in isolation until the Empire eventually tracks them down. And let's see, Orson Krennic, who is the Imperial Weapons Director, tracks him down, played by bad guy extraordinaire man from all of the movies. Let's see, Ben Mendelsohn, I think. Is that who I think it is? Yes, Ben Mendelsohn. So he's like in The Dark Knight Rises, and I think
Who was he in
Ready
that one?
Ready Player One, like the main bad guy from that. He's
Oh yeah.
the main bad guy in the Robin Hood movie we hate so much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's just the bad guy in the movie.
Duh.
Anyway, so he and his Dark Trooper badass soldiers, that's the one for this episode, track him down. He's like, a man of your talents on the planet like this is a simple farmer. What a waste. Come with us and we won't hurt your family. And then his wife tries to save Galen from going with the Empire, so they kill her, and they'd already sent Jyn to hide in a safe place. And so he agrees to go with the Imperial guys to save his daughter, who is picked up by a rebel militant named Saw Gerrera and raised by him. So years later, Jyn is sort of making her way on her own as sort of a rogue. She had gone with Saw Gerrera's rebels for a while, and then split off to do her own thing. So meanwhile, Galen gives the secret to this defector cargo pilot for the Empire, and he directs him to take it to Saw Gerrera. And so the guy goes to the planet of, let's see, I'm trying to remember
The planet of desert.
desert planet where they are harvesting kyber crystals, which used to be used to power lightsabers, but now they're being collected to power the Death Star. So yeah, this pilot goes to this planet and gets picked up by Saw Gerrera's rebels and held captive because they don't trust him because he's an Imperial and they've been trying to kill this dude for years. Jyn gets arrested by the Empire, and yeah, she's sent off to a labor camp, and then she's rescued by another group of rebels led by Cassian Andor and his buddy, reprogrammed Imperial droid K2SO, potassium sulfate. And, well, if you had the 4. Anyway, congratulations, you're being rescued. Really salty droid. Probably my favorite character in the movie. And so the planet's called Jedha.
Oh, okay.
So
they're like, hey, you know Saw Gerrera. He doesn't play well even with other rebels. So how about we send somebody who knows him to go talk to him to try and get the information from this pilot because it's going to be helpful.
Because he probably won't kill you. So they go track down Saw Gerrera, and he's like, hey, Saw, it's been a long time. Hey, Jyn, it's been a long time. Look how big you got. No thanks to you. Whatever, sort of father figure moment. And so they get the message from this pilot, and then the Death Star, meanwhile, has been completed. And mostly completed. And they're like, and Grand Moff Tarkin is like, we need an opportunity.
PlayStation 5 Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah, because the Peter Cushing is dead.
Yeah.
So they did some CGI on him, and it sort of works on a double. It's all right. It's not the best thing, but they're like, okay, well, we want to do a weapons test. We're done with this Jedha planet. Let's blow up part of the surface to test the proof of concept. And the Mr. Bad Guy man, Krennic, is mad that Moff is stealing his thunder because he oversaw building the Death Star. And then Grand Moff's like, well, I'll rank you. And then Krennic tries to go over Moff's head or get Darth Vader to intervene. And he's like, be careful not to choke on your aspirations, while choking him a little bit. It's like, is that a dad joke? Why would you say that?
That was the first inclination that maybe he had a son.
Yeah. So that all is going on in the background. So while Jyn is on the planet, they test fire the Death Star at Jedha and set up a massive explosion. And so Saw is like, you need to get out of here, take the intel, save the dream, save the rebellion, and take this to the rebels on Yavin.
Also on the planet, they picked up 2 more characters.
Yeah.
2 of the best characters, actually.
Chirrut is one, and the other one is Baze. So they were formerly monks, which there's this sort of semi-Jedi order on this planet, which is kind of strong with the Force, but they've been sort of suppressed by the Empire. Chirrut is a blind but very Force sensitive. I'm one with the Force is with me, and one with the Force, who is just crazy good at fighting, even though he's blind because he trusts the Force that much. Cool guys. And so his buddy Baze has a machine gun, and he sort of looks out for Chirrut. So they all go off together. And Cassian is sort of a secret agent / assassin for the rebels. And he's sort of a anti-hero more than a hero at this point in his life. So because Jyn sees the message of her dad explaining the weakness that he hid in the Death Star, he's like, Crap, that was just a notification on my. He's like, Jin, take this to the rebels. I trust you, my Stardust. So she knows it's him because that's the nickname that he always used to give her. And Cassian's like, this guy's responsible for building the Death Star. My rebel commanders are telling me I need to go take this guy out. So they go to the planet where her father's working with these engineers, and she doesn't know that they're going to assassinate him. She thinks they're going to rescue him. And she goes to this planet, and lo and behold, Krennic is back because he realizes there's a mole and trying to figure out who it is. And so in the chaos of the rebels getting there and Jin trying to rescue her father gets killed and Krennic escapes. But she gets to meet him one last time. So they go join up with the rebels, and they're like, okay, so this Death Star is a thing. It's a pretty bad deal, but my dad built a weakness into it. And they're all like, this is impossible. It's going to be really difficult to... We have to find the plans to the Death Star in order to be able to exploit this weakness. And they're like, well, the plans are on this planet called Scarif. Let's take a team over there and get the plans. And they're like, no, it's way too costly. We'll lose too many people.
We're gonna lose so many Bothans.
I sent Bothans to get coffee once, all dead.
That was episode 6. Those were the plans they got. That was a different set of people.
I know.
They always send Bothans though, but at great cost.
Yeah. So they're like, nope, we're not going to do it. And then Jin's like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to do this because it's right, and I want to live up to my father's memory. So Cassian's like, well, here's this group of guys and me. We've lived pretty rough lives. We've done some things we're not proud of for the rebellion. We want to sort of redeem ourselves a bit and sacrifice ourselves on the suicide mission to get these plans and give us a shot at winning. Because if they don't destroy the Death Star, the galaxy is basically screwed.
Oh, and then K2SO's like, I'm just here because Cassian told me to.
Yep. And he doesn't exactly trust Jin. So they go off they steal a ship and go off on their own. What's your call sign? Rogue One. Roll credits.
Roll credits.
So they go to Scarif and basically do a heist to get the plans. They infiltrate this facility and start fighting with the Imperial garrison to create a distraction long enough for them to get the plans. And the rebel commanders sort of catch on to what's going on, and so they're like, they have a change of heart and send forces over to Scarif to help fight the battle and get the
Particularly air support with the X-Wings and such.
Mm-hmm. There's like sort of this massive shield over the whole planet, so they can only get a few ships through at a time because there's like one gate that goes in and out. Krennic arrives to stamp out the rebel attack on the base, and one by one, as they get the plans, they realize, okay, well, we can't get off world, so we have to beam this up to one of the ships. And so they manage to do that, and one by one the rebels start getting killed in battle, including Trute and Baze have a heroic last stand sort of thing, and then the pilot guy and the rest of the crew.
Yeah, he blows up the ship, and then
Mhm.
K2SO holds them off.
holds off.
Locks the door. And
Yep. And then Cassian and Jin have a sort of a showdown with Krennic at the signal tower, and they kill Krennic. Incapacitate Krennic, and she beams up the plans to a rebel ship, which comes under attack by Darth Vader, but they still manage to get the plans on board to a very familiar-looking ship, which then goes light speeds away from Vader.
But not before the Death Star shows up above Scarif, and it's like, yeah, let's wipe out this little problem we have, and they blow up.
Jin
Part of the
and
planet.
Galen or Cassian are stuck on the planet, so they just kind of slowly watch their death roll in this big explosion. But all these people, and there's like a lot of losses on the rebel side too, hence like it cost many lives to get us these plans.
But they also gained hope.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the movie ends.
They end the
with,
movie basically immediately before A New Hope begins with CGI Carrie Fisher. So, 2 Star Wars stories. What's the main through line? Okay, first of all, what do we like about these 2 films? Let's start with Solo.
That's how it happened.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of this stuff that's like fun to see, right? I feel like these two were
Satisfied
pretty
mild.
fan-servicey.
Yeah, pretty
They were
satisfied
like, hey,
mild
you wanna just
curiosities.
have an adventure with Han Solo, see how he got Chewie, seeing how he got the ship, and
Hey,
see how he met
See
Lando.
what the heck the Kessel Run justify an entire film based off of one like weird offhand
Because-
remark that George Lucas
The
threw in
parsec
there.
isn't the
Why
time;
not?
it's a distance.
because let's face it, every line, every background character, every piece of dirt in Star Wars has its own backstory created
Every
by the
grain of
fans.
sand.
Yeah,
I don't like sand.
but yeah,
Like
Solo, it's fun. It's a lot of okay, so that's how that happened.
It's a heist movie. It's a
The actor who plays
Crime
young
movie.
Han Solo does a pretty good job. Directed by Ron Howard, who's a pretty decent director.
It was half directed by Ron Howard. He took
Yeah.
over halfway through production.
That's right.
It was a bit of a mess. At
The
this
way
point
it
in
ended,
Lucasfilm
it was
history.
pretty obvious it was supposed to be like more because like in the Clone Wars TV show, which we'll probably do an episode at some point, there's like these crime syndicates, right? And Darth Maul, psych, isn't dead. And there's this whole storyline with that. And so through some random shenanigans, he takes over all the major crime syndicates in the galaxy. So Crimson Dawn, which is sort of the main crime syndicate in this show, is run by the Red Man, Mr. Darth Maul here. And so they it looked like they planned to expand on that, and it didn't really go anywhere because the film didn't do that well. But I don't know. It's a decent enough film. I liked it much better the second time, that's for sure.
Same.
It's Star Wars. The special effects are good.
And there's just some fun characters and fun interactions.
Yeah,
I
Woody
like,
Harrelson is his usual self.
what's this?
The Baka he do chew, but not that kind of Baka.
You got Childish Gambino as
yeah.
as-
Donald
as-
Glover
as
as young Lando, which
Lando.
he does
And
a
he
pretty
does-
good job.
yeah. I think he kind of manages to manifest the personality and the vibe. It's good.
The aesthetic of the movie is sort of this grungy sort of underworld side of Star Wars, so it's not all bright and shiny spaceships per se.
Honestly, the only movies that were bright and shiny spaceships were the prequel trilogy.
That's true.
Like the original vision of Star Wars was this very lived-in future.
More what's the movie? More Blade Runner than
Than
Star
Star
Trek.
Trek, right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about all I have to say about Solo. Good film. Entertaining enough.
It's fine.
It's Star Wars.
There's
It's
nothing
passable.
crazy unique about it.
Rogue One, there's a little more substance to it. So I guess what you guys like about Rogue One?
Just a simple farmer,
Mm-hmm.
sir.
It's a waste, like a man of your talents.
Where Solo is more of a gangster heist movie, Rogue One has more of the vibe of a war movie.
Yeah.
Which it's kind of neat that the outside of the main action adventure numbered series, they have
It's
like
weighty and grounded and centered on sacrifice
yeah, it's
against impossible odds.
you're not looking at the exceptions that overcome the impossible odds because protagonists
They succumb
looking
to
at-
the impossible odds, but manage to triumph.
because they have something there that's worth fighting for.
Hope.
Yes, there's so that's
Yeah. I mean, you watch the main characters die. at
Yeah,
the end
everyone
of the
dies.
movie,
Like I remember
pretty
walking out
much.
of the movie like impressed that they did that. Like I was like, dang, everybody dies, and yet it's super meaningful.
mm-hmm.
That's and like obviously because like, well, where were they in the original trilogy then? Oh, they're all dead. That makes sense.
Right.
So like it made sense from a storytelling standpoint, but it's like they managed to make it carry some weight.
it had story significance. It was
Mhm.
good. And I
To nerd out a little bit about Rogue One, a lot of what I liked about it, like Nathan said, it's filmed like a war movie. I'm into war movies, and so that whole aesthetic really jived with me. But some of the cool things they did, where I think they used the same types of lenses that they used when they filmed the original trilogy, like Episode 4. So like these old style lenses, so it still has
to really capture that aesthetic
on
visually.
modern cameras, but with old lenses, say I capture that aesthetic, which was super cool. And the space battles and everything looked a lot like I think they did digital for this one.
Right.
There were some cool moments.
I think with a lot of the recent Star Wars stuff, in terms of like special effects, they haven't gone full CG like they did in the prequel trilogy.
Mhm.
They've
They've
done
sort
a
of
lot
walked
of
it back a bit.
blending.
Like even in the
There's
Mandalorian,
a lot of practical effects, a lot of makeup, a lot of puppetry, but it's all accented by CG.
and practical effects. as
So
much
it's
as
hard
possible.
to tell where the prosthetic ends and where the CG begins sometimes. And that's a really cool feeling. It's just like, that's just what that character looks like. It's not a costume, it's not a CG, it's just a character they've created.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something about the newer Star Wars stuff that's like, yeah, I really dig that.
There's some cool moments in there, like when Chirrut goes all Force.
Yeah, at the end of the movie when he's making his last stand, and he just has to hold them back for as long as possible, and he just closes his eyes and lets the Force guide him. I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me. It's just that mantra he repeats. Then like having his buddy carry the reins afterwards.
I think don't they have to like turn the power on so they can send
Yeah.
the signal or something like that? And the Death Troopers are trying to stop them. So this is a really heroic moment. And another one of my favorites probably is like when the rebel ship sacrifices itself by like ramming into a Star Destroyer, so it'll ram into another Star Destroyer,
sort of run into this shield generator or whatever.
so the signal can get out. It's like a really, really cool moment, like visually and story-wise. Yeah. So, I suppose.
And then there's the scene at the end where it just shows how scary Darth Vader is. He shows up and it's like he's this imposing figure in the back as the.
And there's this like fight sequence where he takes down a whole squad of
It's barely
rebels.
a fight sequence. It's a chase sequence.
Yeah. There's like, let's dive into horror quick. This is Darth Vader chasing you down, and you've got the Death Star plans.
POV, you have the Death Star plan.
Yeah. ASMR.
Yoda eats a hamburger while your parents fight downstairs. ASMR.
That's so weird. Anyway.
That wasn't part of this movie.
No,
That's something
no.
else.
But yeah, that's another cool moment. Because I think in the original, you don't really get to see Darth Vader fight like beyond his lightsaber duels in the original trilogy, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So seeing him as this vaguely mystical just force, in
Incredibly
the area.
powerful force of evil that he is, it was pretty neat. I think Peter Jackson actually helped direct that sequence. He was just sort of on set that day and helped them sort it out.
They
which
were
is
going
super
through all
cool.
sorts of directors.
Yeah, I guess. So yeah, I guess with all that, then we'll talk about transcendental analysis. So truth between. Well, let's start with Solo. What truth can we pull from Solo, a Star Wars story?
Well, actually, one thing that's kind of a through line in both of them is this idea that no matter what your background, people can come together for a cause, right? So in Solo, he doesn't see himself as part of this rebellion, but he's
sort of he's a principled rogue.
right.
Not exactly the best character, but you know
He needs to start. He needs to end in a place where he can grow from Star Wars 4. So.
Yeah, so he helps
So-
these rebels, but he's not quite willing to dedicate himself to their cause.
Yeah, in the movie, he's kind of torn between being the criminal and being the hero. Where he's like, he's not cut out to be a hero, right? That's what he thinks. So he's got to do this whole crime boss thing. But
and his lady friend Kira is very much like,
she's like, no, get out of it while you still can, because making these decisions is a very, very bad thing. And
She's
it'll
stuck
lead
in
you
this
to a
world.
very dark place, which it kind of does.
she's stuck in this world, but she wants him to be able to live free among the stars.
But he,
And see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
So yeah.
fly me to the moon. That's no moon.
Somebody on YouTube make that, please. So yeah. I don't know. That's most of the stuff from Solo.
Solo's not terribly deep as a movie.
No.
It's just a fun time.
It's a fun time.
But there's like the whole criminal aspect, and it's like, don't get involved with that stuff because
It'll only suck you deeper.
It's a slippery slope. And you see him, by the time we get to him in Star Wars 4, he's in over his head in debt and bounties, and it's just not cool.
Mm-hmm. For Rogue One, I guess some of the truths are, even in the most dire circumstances, hope is something worth fighting for. Like the hope that you might yet, win. Or, well, not win, but, like, achieve freedom for you and the people you love. Jin's journey in the movie is sort of like she doesn't really care about much because everything she loved was taken from her, but over the course of the movie she learns not to live for herself but to live for others.
Retiring to a nice agrarian lifestyle after you build a death machine and is a good way to handle that.
And then you get sucked back into it anyway, but make up for it by making the fatal flaw in the Death Star on purpose. So fix a 30-year-old plot hole.
I love how both these movies are just little patches for minor plot holes.
For context. These are context movies, kind of. But, so yeah, there's Jin's whole thing. And then you have Cassian and Saw Gerrera, who are these rebels who have done kind of questionable and, like, morally gray things in service.
Very ends justifying the means sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And they sort of have a ship. Saw is like, I'm tired from running. And he's had a long life and fought a lot of battles. He's like more of a machine than man. He even has a mask that sounds a little bit like Darth Vader, which sort of accentuates how like
how far he's gone for his cause.
Mm-hmm. Which has corrupted him to the point where he's barely recognizable as a human. A lot of how like Darth Vader can no longer be recognized as human.
And yet Darth Vader could be saved.
Mm-hmm.
And Saw Gerrera can also have a change of heart.
Mm-hmm. And so he accepts his fate when this planet's getting blown up. Or not completely, but, by the Death Star. And accepts his fate. And Cassian sort of has a change of heart as well, where he doesn't kill Jin's father. Because he's like, okay, maybe not everything... Maybe I don't see this very clearly, and I don't need to, do what I think is right, even if it's morally wrong. Or, well, like...
What I think is necessary.
Right, necessary.
For what I think is right.
I mean, Galen ends up getting killed anyway, but not by his hand. And he recognizes... He and his other soldiers realize they want to make up for their sort of things that they weren't proud of doing in the name of freedom, so they sacrifice themselves for others' freedom. So
that sacrifice is what eventually does buy other people's freedoms.
Mm-hmm. So everyone gets redemption, everyone gets redemption,
and even the pilot. The Imperial pilot who ran away because he was a coward. Mm-hmm. His entire character for most of the movie is punctuated by his cowardice. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the movie, he makes the brave move to sacrifice himself. He lures a bunch of guys into the ship and then blows up the ship.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I suppose we're kind of getting into goodness now.
I suppose.
So yeah, self-sacrifice, a very good thing.
Yes.
Owning up to your mistakes and trying to make things right, also good. Fighting to give others hope in the darkest of times, also good.
Gambling away a ship. No.
Oh, so that's how it happened?
Oh, so that's how it happened.
Also good. I guess any further comments on the goodness in these films? Pretty clean. It's Star Wars, so
you
nothing...
get to see the beginnings of a kind of kinship with Han and
And
Chewie.
Yep.
When they're on the mining planet of Kessel.
Sort of a
they're-
friendship of convenience at first.
At
but then-
first. But over the course of the movie, they get closer. And then while they're making the escape from Kessel, when they're in the mines, Chewie recognizes other Wookiees from his tribe and goes to help them and save them while things are just kind of falling apart because Robot Lady is starting rebellion for no reason. But at the end of the movie, at the end of that scene, when they've saved all the prisoners and they're about to fly away, Chewbacca makes the choice to stay with his friend and let his family escape. Because turns out Han still needs him. And so that's kind of cool. You get to see the beginnings of that. It's not terribly deep, but it's, well, the whole movie's not terribly deep, but it's a good time.
There's always something.
It's good.
Rogue One, I think we covered a lot of goodness in there. Beauty, what is beautiful about these two films?
Well, they're Star Wars. They're fun to watch.
Yeah, that's true. Like, the level of artistry, you have to commend the level of artistry that goes into every Star Wars film.
Like, all the character designs are super
Character designs,
I
set
like
designs.
how cohesive it feels with the other Star Wars stuff, too.
People
not
have
the
spent years and years building a very lived-in world for us to enjoy. And, yeah, every background character, every little robot in the background has its own backstory, and
It may not always be like scientifically accurate or
No.
plausible, but it's all like cohesive in itself, right? It's just like, yeah, it's Star Wars. It's got a vibe to it, you know?
very lovingly crafted by the people who make it.
Right. You can
Special
tell-
effects are always great
Oh yeah.
for the time. I mean, looking back on the old Star Wars, I don't know, a lot of it still kind of holds up. Maybe not all of it, but
Also, in terms of beauty, they do a really good job emulating the John Williams soundscape. It's not actually him composing, but they use a lot of the same kinds of instruments and borrow from a lot of the leitmotifs. So musically, it is very inspired by and feels at home in Star Wars.
John Williams and John Powell did Solo, and a different guy did Rogue One, but yeah.
Okay. But he was involved with the whole thing, so it's like it feels again cohesive with the rest of the Star Wars, but also it's good stuff. It's John Williams. It's Star Wars music, you know? It's adventurous, it's lighthearted when it needs to be. It's also kind of scary when it needs to be. It's good. I like it.
Good acting, score, special effects.
Oh yeah.
All that good stuff. Character design, fantastic. It's Star Wars. Unity, I suppose we just sort of touched on Unity. All these extra extended universe projects, I mean, for the most part, have sort of helped flesh out the Star Wars universe set up by the films in ways that the films didn't have time for.
Yeah.
With what they were trying to do. And Star Wars is such a big galaxy that there's a lot of stories you can tell.
Right. And these and Mandalorian and Clone Wars and Rebels, all kind of there's space for all of them in this space.
Space.
Space. Space. You want to go to space? Space. Let's go to space.
Space.
One
We need to
thing
talk
they
about
do
Clone
to
Wars.
signify that this isn't a Star Wars movie, but it's a Star Wars story, is at the beginning it says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but it doesn't do the traditional
The opening
Yeah,
crawl.
there's no
Yeah.
opening crawl. They're omitted from the story.
which is a good way at providing continuity in the Star Wars, while also distinction.
Right.
That wasn't the best English worded sentence, but you get the idea.
It was fine. It was fine. I got
Yeah,
understood.
but you understand things I say that don't make sense to most other people.
That is true. That is
Honestly,
true.
this is not so much about Solo and but you mentioned the opening thing, but they also don't omit the crawl. They tried something else in Mandalorian where the opening this is Star Wars thing borrows too much from Marvel and it bothers me.
Yeah.
Just do the A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away.
And just call it
flash
good.
Star Wars on screen, and then go into the movie. You don't have to show all these helmets, only half of which I care about, because you've got Kylo Ren and the First Order Stormtrooper instead of regular Stormtrooper. It's like,
Look at all this branding. It's like we don't care.
I just let me watch my Star Wars. This is.
In fairness, Kylo Ren was the coolest.
That's
He was
kid
the
about
one
this.
arc that worked.
He should have been the main character. Anyway,
This
we're not.
isn't the Salt
We
Cast.
already had a salt cast, sort of retroactively had a salt cast on the sequel trilogy. But yeah. So another thing with the unity with these two films, quick, is that, I mean, with Solo, it's like a little bit like, I mean, okay, sure, but we didn't really need that. But these two films do a lot to flesh out and fill a couple plot holes in some cases, but they don't muddy the waters of the original continuity of the Star Wars films.
Right. They don't add a bunch of stuff that's like, how does that work? Because, all the characters at the end of Rogue One die.
From a storytelling and writing standpoint, they do a good job of keeping everything coherent.
Where it's like, so it turns out the reason that C-3PO could talk to the Millennium Falcon and it's got the best Navicomputer in the galaxy is because they uploaded this robot into it. That's
because she was
a
going to
thing.
die.
That's cool.
So they saved her life by uploading her into the Falcon.
So there's like a bunch of little stuff like that that's like, okay, I can see where what you're doing with that.
Maybe a little ham-fistedly presented, but
Yeah.
still good stuff.
It's like, hey, look at this. You know this character. He shows up in the cantina to die later.
I'm wanted on 7 systems. But yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Can recommend these films. If you like Star Wars, you'll like these. Unless,
They're-
well, I mean, imagine. They're not perfect, but they're good.
That's Star Wars as a whole,
Yeah,
generally speaking.
true enough.
Except maybe like the latter seasons of Clone Wars. Those are darn near perfect.
Oh my gosh, those are so
We
good.
should talk about
We're gonna have to do
Riley
a
series
Clone
or
Wars.
something.
Yeah, Riley's gotta get through lots of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So he's
We're
not
sort
seen
of-
a great deal of it.
Beginning season 2 of Rebels. It gets better at the end of season 1.
Yeah. It's
You guys will have to sauce me the login.
I will have to get
Didn't
into
you?
the Disney login.
Yeah. But in the meantime, while we do all that stuff, thanks for listening to the Palladium Papists. You can listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at PalPapists. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, or suggestions for future episodes, email us at palladiumpapists@gmail.com. So yeah. Well, it was a two for today because these
Not
films
enough to
were...
go for a whole episode on each, but
It was enough between the two to do an episode, we thought. So yeah, there you are.
Star Wars stuff.
We will be talking to you again next week. Adios.
Bye.